There's so many people wanting to move to Florida, and buying a home in 2021 in this location has gotten increasingly difficult. There's so much information and speculation of what's going to happen in this market. We're going to be discussing offers that come in over asking by some extreme amounts in some cases, waiving contingencies and what that really means and what you're putting at risk and why this isn't a bubble waiting to burst. And lastly, making offers on properties in Florida and what that closing process really looks like. We're getting after that next. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. And if you're looking for information on what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe, hit that little bell, make sure you're notified every time a new video comes out, and maybe even leave a comment down below about something I might have missed or you want to know more about. I'm getting calls, emails, and texts from people every single day, and I love it. If you've got a question you need an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. Okay, like I said, we are in unprecedented times here. This is 2021, middle of the year practically, and people are still buying homes like crazy. And it's not just here in Florida, I get that. It's all over the States, and it's probably all over the world. But this again is unprecedented. We dealt with a COVID situation that kind of threw everything in all kinds of directions, and it opened up a lot of possibilities for a lot of people. And part of that is all the remote workplaces that people don't have to go into an office anymore, so they can choose to work where they want to. They can be in Florida. They can be in Virgin Islands. They can be anywhere they want. So that has played a huge part in this relocation process, and why much of what I'm going to speak about today correlates with that. Also, due to the whole pandemic scare, a lot of people started to really analyze their quality of life and what they want out of their everyday situation. And that really has caused them to reconsider, I've been saying I want to go to Florida for years. What are we waiting for? Who knows how much longer we're going to get on this earth with all this crazy stuff going on. And we're making decisions a lot faster about that process. And lastly, the government here in Florida has made it really attractive because getting through this pandemic, we probably had it best of any of the states. So whether you have decided you're coming, whether you're thinking of coming, whether you're already here, this video will hopefully give you a little bit more insight on some of the things you'd be dealing with getting into the housing market here in Florida in 2021. Now, there are reports that are saying 82% of the homes that receive offers that are on the market, they're either at or over list price. Now, when I say over list price, I'm not talking 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. I'm talking some extreme numbers. I know in my market here, I've been involved in transactions where we were beat out because the other person went $125,000 over asking. Yes, and this property was not a multi-million-dollar property either. So put that into context. People are putting a lot of money out there. I even read an article the other day that somebody went as much as $500,000 over on an offer. That's getting pretty extreme. If you're one of those people that is going to get into these multiple offer situations, think about how you want to proceed into that and through that, because you will very likely be over ask price. So set your parameters of what you're willing to do and get your professional guidance, obviously, to see what the comps are telling you and if you're going to end up overpaying or if it's pretty much spot on with the value. Now, within those numbers, 40% of the people that they have talked to said that they would buy sight unseen. Now, sight unseen, I've discussed this before. It's a problem. It really is. The number of people that are making decisions upon those pretty pictures online, it's not enough. You haven't had an opportunity to see the drive-through of the community or the neighborhood. There's been people come in to show up for their inspection just to get an idea of what the home is actually like, and just driving in the neighborhood was enough to make them cry, literally. An inspector told me that happened in one of his houses. The person literally broke down because they didn't want to go through with the transaction after seeing the neighborhood and the house, because pictures tell part of the story, not the whole story. I'll tell you firsthand, I've done video tours for 2 different clients. Both of those clients did not follow through with the purchase, even though they were walking through this with me. I was able to give further documentation about the home as we went through, but there's nothing like being in the home. So if you're contemplating getting here to check out the houses yourself, I'd say get here. Now, with all these crazy offers going on, 10% of the homes that were on the market went under contract without ever being shown. And 25% went under contract with being shown 5 times or less. This is how busy this market is. People are willing to jump into things and take these chances because they don't want to miss out on a property. Now, if you think that's bad and you think, maybe I'll just rent for a little bit, I don't want to go through all that, good luck with that. Rentals right now are just as bad as trying to get into purchases. In fact, single family homes, last time I looked, there were maybe 5 pool home rentals that were under the 2,000 mark per month. And that was from here up through Orlando. So it's pretty tight. If you're somebody that's thinking of renting, there could be some rental opportunities in these apartment complexes that are springing up. Those are corporate owned, very strict rules. They're very strict on their guidelines in getting in. So if that's a route you want to try, they could be a possibility. I will tell you this, property managers, I tried to get a property manager the other day for a client asking for a rental, and they are no longer taking people to possible rentals. Number one, there's not enough of them. Number two, it is a very time-intensive thing, and there's just no money in it. So if you're looking to rent in any area, here are your choices. Zillow, Realtor.com, Hotpads.com, or good old-fashioned VRBO and Airbnb. Albeit they'll be on shorter terms on those last two. They're not meant to be a long-term rental, but you may be able to get yourself in a situation where you can get a discount for a longer term. Be very careful if you're using Marketplace. There's been a number of scams I've heard about people losing deposit monies and things like that on fake rental ads. So just be really careful when you're getting into those situations. Now, home buying 2021, it's absolutely crazy. It's fast-paced. There's a lot of indecision. You are at times getting impatient. It's FOMO. You're afraid of missing out. I get it. Over, under, up, down. It's all over the place. You can't seem to keep your head screwed on straight. Every time you turn around, a house you thought you might be able to get into is gone. Literally, you looked at it 5 minutes ago, now it's gone. That's how fast things move. I can't tell you what's going to happen, where they're going to be when you get here. Just keep in mind, there is a process that will help you get through this easier, but nobody can tell you for any certainty what that's going to look like. So basically, I'm telling you to slow down, find a source that you can trust that knows what the market's doing and understands your situation, what you're trying to accomplish, and maybe gets ahead of the curve for you so that you don't feel rushed and pushed into a decision that you're not sure you want to make. Now, the makings of an offer, first, obviously, you need to find an agent that's going to get you set up with what we call a portal. Now, this portal is a direct link to the MLS system. This will give you the most live time information because unfortunately the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, all these different sites out there, I think Redfin might be doing this as well. However, the information on there is delayed. You're not getting live time. So with the MLS, these things are updated every 15 minutes. You're getting as live time information as you can. And that way you can build a list properly so that you know how to go about what you're going to be doing when you get into the process. While we're speaking about that process, I'm going to tell you my process because I've been through this so many times. And in this market alone, for this half of the year that we've gone through, it's been absolutely crazy. But everybody needs to go through the same process, and there's a reason for it. This market doesn't allow for all the time that we once had. Literally 15 minutes to show a property, get to the next property, you get another 15 minutes there. It's gotten really tight in some cases. Now, not all realtors are doing that, but it only takes a few to throw off your day. So we don't have that luxury to drive around a neighborhood, show you where the school is, show you where the closest convenient things that you need, where they are. I can't do that. The time doesn't exist anymore. So in order to make this process work well, I have you do a little something on the front end. Every client has enjoyed it and said, thank you for making me do this. But that portal I just talked about, we're going to identify a list of properties you just absolutely love based on the pictures. Because again, we have to see it, right? So the pictures make you think, I want to see this house. Well, what about the neighborhood? Did you see the neighborhood or what the house looked like when you drove in or any of that? No, you didn't, right? So this list that you've developed when you get in town, you're going to drive around to these neighborhoods and see what the neighborhoods look like. If you check that box off and say, you know what, this is nice, and it's close to the school for the kids, or it's close to the interstate so I can travel up and down for work, or the airport, or the beaches, whatever it may be. You set the parameters. Once you have identified that, then your real estate agent knows what area he can look in for you or she. And the types of homes here, pretty much what you find in Cape Coral, you're going to find in Fort Myers. They're pretty much similar construction, similar styles, but the home isn't nearly as important as the neighborhood. And you might think that's crazy to say, but it's true. You can find a home in any of these areas, and you can modify them if it isn't perfect for you. But once that home is in an area, if you don't like that area, you're gonna be miserable with the house. That's just my experience. I just would like everybody to trust that process so that you don't end up like these sight unseen people that come in crying because they were just so upset with not understanding what they were buying into. This is a huge investment. And just like you're gonna trust your financial advisor and your accountant and even doctors, everybody trusts those people in the advice they give and they're paying money for it. Well, you should also trust your real estate agent because they see this every day. This is exactly why you came to them to begin with. You wanted information you couldn't find anywhere else. You wanted to get the next level information you just couldn't search out yourself. Trust what you're being told, follow the process, and if everything works out well, you're going to be a happy camper in the end with your dream home in Florida. Now, when you've gotten through that part of building a list, make sure you're pre-qualified before you go out to look at homes, because if you fall in love with something, you're not going to be able to put an offer in without a pre-qualification letter. That's the very first step. An agent won't even look at the offer without it. With pre-qualifications, 25% of people underestimate what they can actually purchase. They think that they aren't able to qualify for more. They're probably using an online calculator. I've been guilty myself, whether it's for a vehicle or for a home. We like to do it ourselves. Nothing substitutes the professional. Get a lender involved. I've got a couple I can refer to if you need them. Find one that works in Florida and does regular business in Florida, not once in a while, but regularly, so that they know exactly what they're getting into with the transaction and they can deliver in a timely fashion. Now, there's a lot of decisions to make along the way. Do I sell my home? Do I not sell my home? Do I qualify where I live now and buy it as a second home because I can use my income? Do I wait till I get there and get new jobs and then qualify? A lot of unknowns, right? One of the best things you can do is get that lender on these questions. They can tell you where you stand, if you can even hold up two mortgages or two homes at the same time. Chances are you're in a market right now that the homes are selling there just as well as they're selling here, so you won't be holding two mortgages for very long, if at all. We can time them out of simultaneous closings even, but qualification still has to happen up front. So get with the lender, find out what you can and can't do, and that'll answer those questions. Another thing that a lot of people aren't really fully aware of is realtor fees. Who pays them? Well, if you're going to a resale home here in Florida, the seller pays the fees. So you as the buyer are not paying the realtor fees. If you go to a builder, once again, you're not paying for a real estate agent to go with you and to help you and to be your boots on the ground when you're not here. That's paid by the builder. So get yourself the professional. Once again, they can help you through the process. They've been there before. They know what they're doing, and you're not going to have to pay for it. Some of the main components of a contract and the makeup of an offer are the price, the escrow amounts, the closing time, like how much time you're going to take to close the home, the inspection period and how long you're going to get to do that, whether it's going to be financing or cash, and then the appraisal and what that looks like in today's market. We're going to touch on all of those in just a second. This is one of the biggest confusions in this market right now. It's contingencies. What do I do? Do I waive them? Do I hold up on them? What can I get away with? What am I risking? What am I giving up? You got to be careful with these contingencies. If you start waiving them on things that you have no business waiving, you could find yourself losing your escrow money. And if it's one of those big deposits you were talked into doing so that you could secure the offer, you could be in trouble. First contingency most people are aware of is the inspection contingency. This is the one that's going to tell you the physical health of the property. This is one that's really hard to waive unless you have some kind of certainty of what this property offers. Maybe you're an inspector back home, maybe you're a contractor, maybe you can see a little deeper into things that most people can't. This is one of the hardest ones to consider waiving because most of us just don't have the expertise to know what may be wrong with the property. Condos are a little bit easier because the exteriors are handled by the association, so your biggest concerns are electrical, plumbing, anything from the block walls and in, that's your concern. Everything on the outside is the association. Also, you want to make sure the mechanicals are checked over. That's your AC and your water heater. They're going to do all the electrical stuff, all the plumbing, all the appliances. They're going to check all these things for you. Also, within those, your insurance company might want a wind mitigation or a 4-point inspection done. Those also need to be done by an inspector. So there's some cases you just can't get out of having an inspection done. And quite honestly, there's very few times I'm going to recommend you not do an inspection. Financing contingency is another huge component. And this is one that can get you in a lot of trouble really quickly. The reason why, if you look at the little boxes on the contract, it asks you what type of financing you're going to do. Are you doing conventional? Are you going to do a VA? Is it going to be an FHA? This box has to be checked the way that you plan to do the contract originally. I had a situation pop up. The person was going in on a VA loan. Okay, VA loans are a little bit different, but the point to this is their situation changed and they weren't able to qualify as VA anymore. They had to switch to conventional. Well, when they switched to conventional, they wanted more money down. It was something they just couldn't do. Thankfully, we checked off the right box by doing VA. So when it came to a dispute between the selling agent and myself, we had checked the right box, we did the right thing, and when we couldn't qualify for what we originally asked to be done on that financing contingency, they had to give my buyers money back. So if you had done that thinking you were going to be sneaky, saying, hey, I'm going to put down conventional, we'll do the VA anyway, it won't matter. It matters. That person could have lost $10,000 without even blinking an eye and had no choice in it. So be very careful when you're checking those boxes that you're doing the right style of loan so that you don't get caught in the end. Another huge contingency, and this has become so big in our marketplace, is the appraisal contingency. And everybody is now willing to waive it. Really? Waive your appraisal contingency? Do you understand? That means no matter what it comes back appraised at, if your purchase price is off by a large number, you're now responsible to cover that. So if it's a $5,000 or $10,000 difference, hey, no big deal. Most people aren't going to fret over that. If it's 50 or 60, maybe even 100,000 different, how would you feel about that? Now you're covering that difference because you waived the appraisal contingency. This is a tough one. I don't advise on this very often because there's so many unknowns in the market right now with appraisals. Some appraisals come in. I've been blessed with the opportunity to be able to dispute an appraisal for a client recently. And while we were successful, we were off by $40,000 on the original appraisal. We found a comp that matched it very closely that was missed in the first report. We submitted that, we got the value, he closed last week and he's living in his house now. That's the kind of situation that is successful, but that's not always going to happen. If we wouldn't have been able to find that other comp, that was $40,000. Now, he didn't waive anything, so he wouldn't have been on the line for it, but we were able to fix that one. That's not always going to happen. So always know what you're giving up when you're waiving a contingency. Multiple offers are something that we see in this market also all the time, and it's just as troublesome as the appraisal situation. We're going to have it happen regularly, especially on the best and the nicest homes and golf access with a pool. That's the top of the heap. So if you have any of those, you're in a multiple offer, there are ways to win it. Cash isn't always king. Sometimes it is a very strong finance deal if you're putting a large escrow down and you have a very strong pre-qual from the lender. And a lot of times you can get the lender on the phone with an agent to talk through the situation further to strengthen your position. Once again, this is where your realtor gets involved and pushes that point to make sure it happens. So you can win these deals anyway, but you have to do it a little unconventionally. Now here for closings, we use title companies. We don't use attorneys in most cases. They do this every day. They know how to do it inside, outside, upside down. This is what they're paid for. They're licensed and bonded, so you're safe using them. And I think my entire real estate career, which is now 17 years, there may have been a handful of attorneys that I've used. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just sometimes you can pay more fees that way. And we're just so accustomed to using title companies now, that's what we do. Another thing we do differently with our closings, wiring the funds all the time. Even escrow funds are wired now because there's so much fraud, we have to cover our bases. Also, you as the buyer, you're going to have direct contact with the title company to get the wiring instructions because they won't even let us now relay it to you due to the fact that fraud is so prevalent. Here in Florida, you can set up your electric, your cable, your internet, and not your water before closing. Yeah, for some strange reason, they want you to have the closing docs in hand so that you can pay for the water. I don't get it either. But something new that's been happening is really awesome and helps out is the title company can take your application at the time of closing along with the closing docs and send it right over to the water company and get everything done while you're at the title company. So there is no real mess in the process. It's just a delay that you probably weren't planning on, but you can take care of very quickly instead of having to drive down to the water company after closing and do it yourself. And lastly, new construction. Hey, this is kind of funny, but in many states, they don't get sod, landscaping, trees, things like that with their home. They pay for that outside of the house, which is really odd. Florida includes all that stuff. In fact, Cape Coral in particular, they have set guidelines of how many of these plants and trees go on a property to make them complete. Also, appliances are generally all included. Washer and dryer might be the ones that aren't necessarily always there. And right now, some new construction people have decided they don't want to deal with waiting to get the appliances to close the home, so they may just give you a credit towards those appliances. My advice to you is purchase those appliances in advance of the closing so that they will be delivered on or close to your actual possession of the home. Many of these new construction homes are well appointed. All the updates and upgrades are already in the home instead of having to be added on. And you're scratching your head thinking, really? Why would that be? Competition. Right now, every other builder is doing the same thing. So you'll find granite in all these homes. You'll find recessed can lights. You'll find dimensional shingles. Many times now we're starting to see a lot of impact windows being standard. Pavered driveways, pavered lanais. These are all standards that are starting to come out to keep up with the competition. Now you can still go to a custom builder and do over and above, still move walls and do all that fun stuff. But as far as your general aesthetics of the home, they're all coming included now. So new construction could be a great option as long as you can secure one. I think we talked about this in previous weeks. They're lacking a little bit too in availability. I've heard of a few builders that are starting to release more or not hold back on the release. I'll wait to see that before I talk more about it because I haven't seen it quite yet. So that's a little bit about what it's like to buy in Florida in 2021 if you're moving here. If you'd like more information about what it's like to be in this Southwest Florida area, go ahead and check out one of these other videos. And if there's anything that I can do for you, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.